Thank you very much, Ferret. The next speaker from our panel today is Paul Wilson, as I said before, Professor of Criminology at Bond University on the Gold Coast.
Thank you very much indeed, Ken, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. The the Criminal Organisation Act of New South Wales and similar legislation in South Australia and other states is, to me at least, very repugnant legislation, the likes of which we've not seen since the constitutional failure of the Communist Party Dissolution Act of 1950, which also aimed to prescribe a particular organisation. And as Ian Barker, who many of you will know, the veteran criminal barrister, has indicated, it essentially arose because one biker bet another to death at Sydney Airport, a horrendous incident, but the airport itself was hardly under siege, nor were innocent civilians directly harmed. These laws, I would argue, ladies and gentlemen, are undemocratic. They focus on groups and not on individuals. And like similar legislation in other countries like Canada, I will argue that they will not only be ineffective, they'll also be counterproductive. Indeed, they could lead to more violence amongst biker groups and more violence in the community generally. Now, I'm not a biker, as you can obviously see. I'm different from Ferret in terms of how we dress, but I've got no doubt there are undoubtedly some people who traffic in drugs and engage in other serious criminal activities in some biker clubs. The evidence is overwhelming. But there are also corrupt police officers, as we've recently seen in Queensland. What was supposed to be a quickie, clean police force isn't. There are churches who hide and conceal paedophiles. There are financial and banking institutions whose employees commit fraud and engage in white-collar offences and consequently rob thousands of Australians of their life savings. However, we don't close down police forces or police units. We don't close down churches, financial institutions or companies because of the criminal activities of some of their members. Neither should we attempt to do the same for biker groups. In this regard, I think the Crime and Misconduct Commission, the CMC, revelations of corrupt dealings between some Queensland police officers and prison informers, which have been revealed recently and in the media, it's especially relevant to note the Queensland Law Society has pointed out that in Queensland, police may, if these association laws are introduced, give free rein to some bikers and biker groups in return for corrupt payments while their competitors are arrested and charged. As the Queensland Law Society says, not me, as they say, the handmaiden of organised crime is the corruption of officials, with police officers being the number one target. I think it's important to recognise that in this whole debate, that the amount of violence committed by bikers in Australia is not that large anyway. We're talking as though the violence in the country is committed by biker groups. It's clearly not. Recent figures presented to the Joint Parliamentary Committee to review the Australian Crime Commission's Serious and Organised Crime Act, figures presented by Dr. Art Vino, generally considered one of the academic experts on biker groups and bikies, and Superintendent Scott White of the New South Wales Police, revealed that gang-related violence, that includes violence generated by street, ethnic and biker groups, represents just 0.6% of all crime in Australia, and biker groups represent probably half of that, about 0.3%. OK, it's significant, some of it is horrific, but it's a very small proportion. And let me say that contrary to other criminal organisations like the mafia, it's important to recognise that so-called outlaw motorcycle gangs operate on an individual basis instead of a sort of a top-down mafia-type hierarchy. There is no Mr. Big in America telling some of these gentlemen here what to do. They have autonomy and clearly, as noted earlier, some individuals and some clubs are involved in drug trafficking and other crimes, but so too are some professional groups who have considerable autonomy as well, like priests, police officers, lawyers and financial institutions, none of which seem to be the target of criminal association laws.